The entire city whispered about the billionaire widower whose twin children had become impossible to handle, and it wasn't because they were bad, it was because they were broken, shattered by the loss of their mother and locked behind walls no one had been able to crack, not teachers, not therapists, and certainly not the long list of nannies who never lasted more than 3 days in that cold, echoing mansion high above the river. When Maria arrived at the gate, clutching her worn-out handbag and the letter recommending her for the job, she had no idea she was walking into the most heartbreaking and life-changing challenge she would ever face. She expected mischief, tantrums, chaos, but what she found was far more tragic: 2 small children who refused to speak, refused to eat with others, refused to sleep without nightmares, and refused, most painfully of all, to accept any form of affection. Their father, Ethan Hartwell, a man whose name made the stock market tremble, stood with tired, hollow eyes that betrayed countless sleepless nights. He warned her gently, almost apologetically, that she should not expect much. They had run off every nanny before her. But Maria wasn't like the others. She came from a past that had taught her patience, empathy, and the kind of strength that hides in gentleness. The first day was rough. The twins locked themselves in their room and threw their paint jars at the door when she tried speaking to them, but Maria didn't flinch. Instead, she sat outside the door and told them stories in a soft, soothing voice, stories of courage, stories of children who lost more than they could bear and still found light again. On the second day, she left warm food by their table and didn't pressure them to eat with her. Instead, she hummed a quiet lullaby as she cleaned, and though they didn't come out, the bowls were empty when she returned. On the third day, she discovered their sketchbook, filled with dark scribbles, storms, shattered hearts, and instead of scolding them, she drew a tiny sun on the corner of the page and whispered, "Storms end too." Something shifted that day, something small but powerful. The twins opened the door just long enough to look at her before shutting it again. But on the fourth day, something impossible happened, something no nanny had ever achieved. She found Lily, the quieter twin, sitting alone in the hallway with tears streaming down her face after a nightmare. The child looked terrified, trembling, but instead of running from Maria like she had with everyone else, she reached out with the smallest, shaking hand. Maria gently scooped her into her arms, humming the same lullaby she had sung outside their door. For the first time in months, Lily fell asleep peacefully against someone's chest. Her brother, Liam, watched from the corner, confused and scared, but when Maria smiled softly at him, he didn't run. He took one hesitant step forward, and that was enough. By the 5th day, the twins were following her everywhere, holding onto her fingers, showing her their toys, sitting beside her as she read them stories. They still didn't speak, but their silence was no longer a wall, it was a bridge slowly being built. Ethan was stunned. He had never seen them like this, never seen them smile, never seen the faint sparkle of safety return to their eyes. One evening, as Maria tucked them into bed, both children clung to her tightly, and Ethan, standing quietly in the doorway, felt something inside him break open, a mixture of gratitude, amazement, and something he couldn't name yet. But the most miraculous moment came a week later, during breakfast, when Lily, in a voice soft as a feather, whispered a single word she hadn't spoken since her mother's funeral, "Maria," and then Liam echoed, "Stay." Ethan's hands shook as he covered his face, overwhelmed by emotions he had buried for far too long. From that day forward, the impossible continued happening. The twins slowly returned to the world, color returning to their drawings, laughter returning to their mornings, peace returning to their dreams. And every night, when they curled up beside Maria, resting their heads on her lap, Ethan would stand quietly at the door, watching the woman who had done what no one else could, the woman who brought his children back to life. The world had called her just a nanny, but to those children, she had become the light in their darkness, the miracle no one believed was possible. And as this story continues, one thing becomes clear: sometimes angels appear not with wings, but with a gentle voice, patient hands, and a heart brave enough to love the broken pieces of others. Forget to subscribe to the channel for